Welcome to the Money Mentors Podcast.
This week, our special series on taxes continues here on Money Mentors. Now, Go Banking Rates points out that we might face quite a few tax surprises when we do get to retirement. So, looking at this list here, Taylor, Laurel, what do you think tends to catch people off guard the most as they move in kind of this new phase tax-wise?
I think the biggest one I see is taxes on Social Security. Mm-hmm. You mean to tell me I'm going to pay taxes on my Social Security benefit that I've paid in for all these years? Yes, but let me help you with that so we can minimize that tax, reducing that overall tax, maybe eliminating it altogether with proper planning. But taxes on Social Security benefits is one that I see the clients that come through the door be most shocked about.
I will say one on the list here, too, says your retirement plan withdrawals are likely taxable. Likely, yes, because what we see a lot of right now, especially with people who are reaching retirement age, is they've had to save themselves. They had a total different retirement than grandparents did. Mm-hmm. So saving for themselves means pre-tax accounts, really like 401ks. We're seeing nowadays that they're offering a Roth 401k. So we're starting to see that shift a little bit more to plan for that no tax piece later on. But right now, if you've saved well and you have $1 million in your 401k, well, every time you start withdrawing from that account comes taxes. Or if you've got something else set up and here comes required minimum distribution age, they're going to trigger you to start paying tax on that too.
Yeah, and that additional income means more taxes on your Social Security. tax, right?
And Medicare.
And then Medicare. That's where I was going with it next. Yep. Another one I see in here says even your Roth IRA distributions may be taxable. I think this one's interesting to talk about because we talk about Roth being tax-free, which it is. Right. But you have to play by the rules. And that's why you need to go at it with a fiduciary advisor and make sure that you're meeting that 5-year rule requirement for touching your growth, or you're meeting the age 59 and a half requirement. Don't just blindly put the money in there and then all of a sudden think, yep, we're just going to pull it out because that's tax-free. There are some restrictions in place, and it's important that we track that and keep ahead of that so we don't have that taxability on the Roth IRA distributions.
Yeah, and my best advice there is if you're contributing to a Roth, pay attention, like Taylor's talking about there. Pay attention to what you put in and when. Have some documentation because of the rules that follow that. You want to make sure you're adhering to them and don't have any surprises later on.
One on their list I was just talking to my sister about. I'm not sure if she was thinking about this. She has a pension, one of the lucky few, right, that still has a pension.
Oh, good for her.
If you have a pension, though, you're going to have to pay taxes on that as well. That's not just free money there either.
Absolutely, and that's ordinary income tax. So whatever tax bracket you're sitting in, that's what you're paying your taxes on that. It's essentially no different than pulling a withdrawal out of your 401k. Right? Yeah. As long as it's pre-tax, it's treated exactly the same. Now, granted, it's great to have that pension and I'm happy to pay some tax on that, pay my fair share, but I don't want to pay too much. And, let's say we've got a good Social Security benefit. You are one of the lucky few with a good pension. So overall, your income needs are met relatively. You rely on investments a little bit here and there, but then those RMDs kick in. And again, now we're bumping up ourselves to a higher tax bracket, paying more taxes on that Social Security, maybe even having to increase the withholdings on our pension. This is money that you're not even necessarily relying on, right? So that's where that tax planning piece, leveraging Roth conversions or potentially gifting or just investing in some more tax efficient type of investments or utilizing alternative investments to maximize your income with tax-free income over time.
I think one on here, too, that a lot of people don't think about is your property tax will likely go up over time. This really plays into that income goal, knowing what your critical income need is. That's something that when it comes to planning for retirement, when we sit down with somebody or a couple, we're going to talk about what are they currently making and likely shoot for that when it comes to an income goal. Because we have learned over time, too, people might say, I'm going to do different things than I am while I'm working, or I'm saving on gas or X, Y, Z. But you're going to find other things to spend that money on.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's what it's there for.
And who wants to go into retirement saying, hey, I have to take a pay cut now, and you get used to a different lifestyle altogether and a different income. So something to pay attention to, but make sure you have that budget line item on there. I know budget's a terrible word that people don't like, but make sure that's on your critical income needs side of things.
Yeah. And with the property tax piece, I think one of the interesting things here is when I have a conversation in a first appointment with a client, well, let's talk about your current home. Do you plan on staying there forever? Yeah, this is a forever home. They're taking me out foot first. Or nope. Within 2 to 5 years, we plan on selling and downsizing, and we're going to move to a condo, or we're going to find a house on the lake or whatever. Well, you've been used to what your property taxes are on your current residence because you've been living there for so long. But now you buy this new place and your taxes get uncapped potentially. And so the tax bill may not seem that bad. And then after the first year living there, you get that assessment and all of a sudden your taxes go way, way up. So it's important to remember, a lot of times people are going to downsize in retirement. So really work with that realtor, work with your advisor and get a really good idea of, if I do move and sell my house and buy this new place, what do my property taxes really look like? Am I factoring that into my overall cost?
Especially over the last few years. I mean, with property values skyrocketing, a lot of us have seen those big jumps in our property tax bills. So how are you going to accommodate for that over the next 20, 30 years in retirement? And these are just a few things on this list of tax surprises here. But speaking of surprises, one of my friends who listens to the show was recently surprised to hear us talk about RMDs, because even though he's still years away from taking them, he was shocked at the idea that the government forces you to take money out of your retirement accounts at a certain age, even if you don't need it. So can you kind of give us the basic rundown here on what people need to know and when those required minimum distributions, as we call them, when they kick in?
Yeah. So I always kind of phrase it like this. Mr. and Mrs. Client, I'm Uncle Sam. You've put all this money away, pre-tax, tax-deferred. You've enjoyed years of tax-free growth on this money. But you're starting to get a little old. You're 73 or you're turning 75, and now it's time to start paying the piper. I want my tax money, right? So now it's time to start taking some money out of here. I don't care what you do with it as long as you pay your taxes on it. Well, RMDs obviously are factored at different ages. Every single year that gets readjusted based on your life expectancy and payout factors, also based on your year-end account value. But as a simple rule, let's say it starts at 4%. You're 73, you've got good Social Security and a pension or Social Security, and you're living off some investment income, and you're very comfortable. And now all of a sudden you get that $54.98 that says your year-end account balance was $1 million, and you have to take out $40,000 this year and pay taxes on it. Going back to Social Security, now we're paying more in tax on that, potentially more in Medicare. And at the end of the day, I like to spend my money, but I don't like other people telling me how I need to spend it, right. Especially when it comes down to, before you spend it, you got to cut me a check for 22 or 24% of that, by the way. Oh, and your Medicare is going to go up. Oh, and now instead of 50% of your Social Security being taxable, 85% of it's taxable. Sorry. Right. So that's kind of the basics of it is you have to start taking at 73 and 75, and it's a percentage of your assets at year end. And the older you get, the higher that payout percentage gets. And hopefully, if you're doing a good job, the higher your account balance gets. Right. So that means that's more and more money. It doesn't typically get lower each year. It continues to go up.
And reminder, these are for your tax deferred accounts, your pre-tax accounts. So this is your 401k, an IRA, a SEP IRA, your simple plan. That list goes on. And there are some tips and tricks to where, if you have multiple IRAs, you can aggregate and satisfy your distributions through a certain account. But that's why it's so important to work with somebody who's really educated on this to get it right, because you don't want that penalty. Because, we talk about penalties or taxes and all these things. And now that penalty that you'd have to pay is actually 25%. So 25% of what you should have paid, that addition is on there, and that is not a fun bill.
I think the aggregation of RMDs is something that's kind of lost on a lot of people. Is, let's say you've got 3 or 4 401ks from all these different employers and you've never rolled them over. They're all in their individual, respective 401k accounts. If they are in a employer plan, you have to satisfy that RMD individually from each one of them. Correct. You can't say, okay, my total RMD is 20,000 instead of, taking 5 here and 3 there. I'm just going to pull it all out of this account because it's performed very well, or markets are down. I don't want to sell these things for a 20% discount and then pay my taxes on top of it. So having that safe nest egg, that green money that we talk about, set aside so you're not relying on the markets and having to take that out at a loss and then pay taxes on it too. So by rolling those into an IRA, or you could have 100 different IRAs and pull your RMD out of one. It doesn't matter. It's just making sure that you have that aggregation, and then you're able to pull that money the best way possible for you without walking your portfolio backwards.
The last thing I'll say about this is every year that percentage is going to go up. I know Taylor had talked about it's based on your age and they recalculate that. So by the end of the year, you're going to get that statement and you're going to see what was the account value and here's that amount that you need now. So that's why we want to make sure we're planning ahead of time, taking care of that tax bomb so you have options. You're not trapped into some type of tax bracket due to RMDs.
I guess I do have one more thing.
Oh, geez, here we go.
So let's say that you are taking, your RMDs or we're planning for RMDs and we're not going to be able to mitigate that to zero, right? Mm-hmm. And that may be unrealistic for a lot of people. But let's say that your RMDs are 10,000. Mm-hmm. You don't need the full 10,000, but you do a lot of charitable giving. And let's say you give $5,000 away. Well, give that $5,000 then to those charities from your IRAs. It will help satisfy your RMD, but you're getting what's called a QCD, a qualified charitable deduction. Then you're not paying taxes on it. So you're giving to the charities that you want to, as you normally would, but you're not paying taxes on it. They're not paying taxes on it, and it is helping satisfy the RMD.
Want weekly lessons from your money mentors? Yes. Hit the subscribe button now and listen every weekend on Wood Radio.
The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult your financial advisor prior to investing. Any past performance discussed during this program is no guarantee of future results. Fee-based financial planning and investment services are offered by Matson Financial Services, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Insurance products and services offered through Lakeview Financial Group, LLC, Matson Financial Services, LLC, and Lakeview Financial Group are affiliated. To find out if Matson Financial Services is licensed in your state, please call 800-536-8907.